Someone asked Karl Marx, if you were to like say it in one sentence, what is communism? And he replied, abolition of private property. So that's one important aspect of communism. Um, Basically, communism is a promise made by communist and socialist parties. And communism contains, I did it in more detail in a previous video, so if you wanted more details, watch that video. But in a nutshell, communism is the promise of three things: um, abolition of private property, and also, well, that is, in a nutshell, that's already it. But what communists will also tell you that, in addition to that, at the same time, in a communist society, you would also have um, freedom. You would have and you would have equality, and maybe they would also mention that you would have no countries or no state. So in communism is a state of society where you have absolute freedom, absolute equality, absolutely no private possessions, and no state. Pretty much no state. Well, I said absolute, but yeah, well, pretty much to a well, maybe not absolute, but to a very large extent. So that's communism. And as you know from my previous video, and as pretty much everybody knows, there's also socialism. Now, the main difference between socialism and communism is that socialism exists and is possible, while communism is not possible. Why isn't communism possible? Well, because those things I just said, well, they're contradictory. Many communists don't realize that. Um, it sounds nice to have a state of society where you have no private possessions, uh, but if you think about it, it's not such a good thing. What communists what communists don't realize is that actually you cannot have freedom and the abolition of private property at the same time. Because if you have no property, you have no rights. Um, why do I have rights? What, or to put it another way, how far do the rights I have, do the choices I have extend? Any choice and any freedom and any right I have does not extend further than my property. Um, this is a bit difficult to explain, but property and rights are related. Um, for example, this is my arm. I can choose how I move my arm. I can do whatever I want with my arm. Why? Because it belongs to me. Because it is my property. Um, and it's not only, so property isn't only about money and land and stuff, but of course that's also an important aspect. But if you have absolutely no property, then you have absolutely no rights. And well, I'll get back to that later on. I'll explain later on why having no property and having rights and having freedom is not possible at the same time. But the other elements of communism are also contradictory. I will talk about it a bit more later on, and I also talked about it in my previous video, why this is so. Um, uh, so, freedom and equality. Communists also promise you freedom and equality at the same time. That is also contradictory. I also explained this in my previous video. Freedom includes the freedom to be different. If you have a society where everybody is equal, you have to take away their rights. You have to take away their rights to be different. And if you wanted to make them absolutely equal, you have to absolutely take away their rights. Because any choice they might make independently might lead to their being different. Well, of course, it comes in handy if you don't allow them private possessions. Then, well, then that's a big step in them being equal. It's also a big step in them being not free. So because of this, of those contradictions, communism isn't really possible. It's just it's like any not any politician, but most politicians, they promise you something so that so that they're put into power, but once they have gained power, then well then you start to figure out that it was just propaganda so that they can gain power. And that's particularly true of communists. They cannot actually make communism work. It has never been put into practice. It cannot be put into practice because, as I said, it's contradictory. So they tell you that so that they can gain power. And what they deliver you, they cannot deliver you communism. So what they will deliver you is socialism. And communists would tell you that socialism is kind of similar to communism, or that socialism will lead to communism. Well, it's kind of similar, but it's similar in the aspect that in socialism too, there exists no private property, and in socialism, everybody is equal. However, what you do not have in socialism, of course, is you do not have freedom, because you cannot have freedom and equality at the same time. The more you make people equal, the less freedom they have. The more you take away the people's property, the less freedom they have. So, in socialism, you do not have freedom. You cannot have freedom because otherwise you would not have equality, and the abolition of private property. So the other promise of communism was there not existing a government, not existing a government. But in socialism, the government does not only exist, the government owns all the property. And the government makes all the decisions. You don't make the decisions. You can choose, but between what the government allows you to choose. For example, I know many people in Eastern Germany, in former Eastern Germany, that were sent to prisons simply because the Socialist Party, said, okay, we decided you're going to work as a car mechanic. But they didn't want to work as a car mechanic. They wanted another job. Maybe they wanted to be a baker or a fisher or whatever. Anyway, they wanted to do something else, and they weren't good at the thing the state decided for them to do. So they practiced another job. And simply because they wanted to choose their own job, they were put into prison. Uh, so in socialism, the state makes all the decision. The party makes all the decision. The party has all the power. The party leaders have all the power. The individual does not have uh, any freedom. He can. The only freedom he has is he can choose between what the party allows him to choose. You know, they might say, well, you can choose between, just as an example, you can choose between being a policeman in the People's Police or being a soldier in the People's Liberation Army. You can choose between what they allow you to choose, and it even goes so far as, you can, for example, in the former Eastern Germany, it even goes so far that, as I said, if you have no property, you have no rights, and your body also is your property. If you have no property, it's really not a good thing not having property, because property does not only extend to things such as money and possessions and material things and owning factories and that's also an important aspect. If you worked a lot and you have built a factory, then, well, you should have, that factory should belong to you, right? If you earned it in an honest way, if you bought it with money that you yourself owned, then that you have yourself have worked for, then why not? There's nothing wrong with having a factory or whatever, or having a lot of money if you have worked for it. But they will not only take away that. Property also extends, as I said, to your own body. Your body is also your property. If you have absolutely no property, you cannot even make decisions over your own body. And again, in Eastern Germany, you could only choose between what the party allowed you to choose. When they allowed you to travel to other countries, you could travel to other countries. If they didn't allow you to travel to other countries, then you couldn't go to other countries. You could only go where they allowed you to go. If you wanted to go somewhere where they didn't want you to go, well, then they shot you. Yeah, well, that's the way it was, So, as someone else said, there's an example someone else once gave. Say, I would stand on a soapbox and proclaim, I'm going to start a government where I'm going to take all of your rights away. Who's going to sign up? Nobody with half a brain. But now Karl Marx stands on a soapbox and says, I'm going to start a government where I will take all of your property away. They're signing up like flies. Why? Because they don't understand that property and rights are related. So then later on, they go and complain, wait a minute, this isn't what we signed up for. We didn't want to be shot or, we didn't want to be executed or whatever. And we didn't want the party to command every aspect of our lives. Well, no, that is what you signed up for. You didn't understand that it's because you have not seen through their propaganda. If you use your brain and don't let yourself be lured by those false promises, you would have realized that there is something wrong with what they were saying. We didn't realize that because you didn't think. You were thinking, oh, great, yeah. They're exploiting. Those are all just. It's all just tactics. It's all just propaganda, and exploiting people's greed. They're exploiting, maybe poor people, poor workers who would think, oh yeah, it would be nice if I wouldn't have to work so much and get more stuff without working for it. It's basically greed, and that's what they're exploiting. And you didn't notice that their promises were contradictory because you were too excited. Oh yeah, great! I'm gonna get the stuff from those rich bastards, and I get stuff without having to work for it, and get stuff from other people, and again, let's swap some capitalists, take away their money. And there it starts. You were okay with that, weren't you? You were thinking, well, those rich bastards, they could give some money to me. I'm working in a factory and I only earn like $5, and I want to have more money, you know. So you went against it when they were saying, yeah, we're gonna take away their money and give it to you. Then you were okay with that. You didn't realize that what they did there is take somebody's rights away. You think they're gonna stop there? No. That's what it is about. Taking people's rights away. And that's not a good thing. And then later on you go and complain, oh yeah, well it's not quite like how I pictured it. Well, so it's not a good thing. It's in socialism you have no rights. You have no freedom. And you're very, very much restricted. And so yeah. That's one thing that I wanted to do is, talk about what they promise you and what is actually behind it. A lot of what socialists and communists say is, well, it's propaganda and it sounds good on paper, but when you think about it rationally and when it's put in reality, into reality, then it's not such a good thing. It's actually not a good thing at all. Yeah, maybe I will make some more videos like this. So talk a bit, talk a little bit about what they promise you and what's behind it. So now I started with the premise, them promising you communism, or promising you freedom, and delivering you the opposite. And as I said, communism isn't possible. It's just what they use in the propaganda to lure you in, and then give you socialism. And socialism, you might think communists naturally think it's a good thing, or at least they think it's a necessary evil to achieve communism. But communism isn't achievable, and socialism isn't a good thing at all. There are so many other things they say, and socialist parties promise people and say and claim, and a lot of it is propaganda. A lot of it sounds good in theory only, and there are many tactics they use. Or maybe later on I will talk a bit about the tactics they use. For example, one tactic they use is they will devalue other people. In many of my previous videos, I've been attacked, but that's normal, I have, since now I don't live in a socialist country, I have the freedom of having my own opinion, even though it might differ from everybody else's opinion. That's an aspect of freedom, and I'm aware of that. I might have a very different opinion from other people, but since I don't live in a socialist country right now, I have that freedom. But many socialists are not okay if you disagree with them. They don't. And it's well, they will attack you. Many of them, not all of them, but many of them will attack you if you say something in opposition to them. And the tactics they use in attacking you is not, they won't go and say, oh yeah, well, but see, like this one point you said, that's not quite right, and this is wrong. They most of the time they will not make a factual, they will not debate with you rationally based on facts. What they will do is they will simply say, well, you belong to this or this and that class, so everything you say is garbage anyway. Categorically denying everything you say, any argument you might bring. You can have the best argument, and it doesn't matter because you belong to this class or this group, and all the people who belong to this class and this group, they're all liars and they're all garbage and they are not to be listened to. That's the logic socialists and communists use. They devalue other groups. That's one tactic they use, and many more tactics. Maybe I will do some more videos like this, explain some of the methods, some of the tactics. There's a lot of things I could talk about. Well, maybe, you know, some people have also complained that my videos are too long and boring. Well, if you think that way, you don't have to watch them. And if you disagree with them, again, you don't have to watch them, you know. So, but maybe some people like watching it, so maybe I will do some more videos like this. But that's it for now. Since I changed my name to Emmanuel Goldstein, I thought I have to make some more videos like this.